Johnny here for Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. So today what I want to cover is F150 engines. I want to cover what kind of power are they making, what kind of towing can you do with each engine, and what kind of payload does the engine offer you. Now, some of these pictures you're seeing are from an F150 XLT 302 Sport, because I want to let you know that if you want to know more about Ford product and get my videos when they first come out, please subscribe to my channel, because that way you'll get all the new info that I'm throwing out, mostly about the Ford product, but occasionally a review of a vehicle that isn't a Ford product. So let's jump right in, put the pedal to the metal, and get right on to the subject of engines. Engines have gotten they've been beefed up. So you've got, the 3.3 liter V6 that has no turbo and it has 290 horsepower and 265 pound-feet of torque. So, if you just want a base truck, that's a good engine for an XL. And what's really impressive and where we're beefed up is that this engine now hauls or tows 8,200 pounds. So that's definitely beefed up, and that's new. Now, the 3-liter Power Stroke diesel has 250 horsepower and 440 pound-feet of torque. That's some really good torque, and if you're looking for a fuel-efficient engine, it's a great option. Mind you, this engine does come with a premium to the price, so it's going to add to the price. And maintenance and repairs when they're due, are going to be more costly than on a petrol engine. Now, one of my favorite engines is the engine that's going to be in the Ford Bronco, and that's the 2.7 liter V6 EcoBoost engine. Now, that's the engine that's going to be in my Bronco, and on the F150, it makes 325 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. And that torque is made at only 3,000 RPM. So really powerful, really low end, and it too pulls more than it did on the 2020 model. And that's actually because of a little thing on the rear axle that I'm going to be talking about. It's got a 3/4 floating rear axle, so I'm going to get into that a little bit later in the video. First, let's continue talking about our engine options, because boy, do we ever have a lot of engine options. So we've got the 5-liter V8 for all of you people out there that love the idea of having an 8-cylinder and a great sounding engine. Now, of course, with the 6 cylinders, you can always go with MBRP exhaust, change the exhaust, and you'll get a pretty great sound out of it. But the 5-liter undoubtedly has an amazing sound. I've got Mustang videos where I start my Mustang, and I think it'd be hard to argue that that's not an incredible sound. Now, that 5-liter has 400 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque, and it makes that torque at higher range, around 4,250 RPM. I'll be putting up the spec sheets later on in the video. But it's making that torque at a higher level than the 2.7 liter. And it's one of the things I love about the 2.7 liter. Now, a fantastic engine and a huge beef in power comes from the 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6 engine. This thing's now making 400 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. How can you say that this truck is basically the same as the 2020 model when we're talking about engines, we're getting some major changes? And the biggest change I've saved for last. The biggest change is the 3.5 liter Power Boost. Now that's like a 3.5 liter EcoBoost, but it has an electric engine added to it. And how Ford's describing it, what they're calling it, is a Power Boost full hybrid V6, and that's because the hybrid aspect of it, or the electric engine, is a standalone engine. It's separate. It's not just some little contraption they added onto the motor. Now, this thing is crazy powerful. 430 horsepower and 570 pound-feet of torque. That is crazy power. That's, that's your NFL player. And, what we were running in the past would be more like, let's say a good NFL player. But the truck has changed. We're getting incredible power. We've had a huge leap, and that also brings a huge leap in fuel economy, because that power boost engine, that hybrid engine that has, an electric motor added to it, can get you up to 700 miles of range. You can get 700 miles of range out of 135 or 136 liter fuel tank. And I love the idea of this, because you're getting great fuel economy without the extra cost of buying a diesel engine. So here we have some of the numbers behind what these engines can pull. Now just keep in mind that these are huge numbers, but just because an engine and a transmission can pull a ton of weight doesn't mean that the truck can handle a ton of weight being added to it. And that's why a lot of trucks in the F-150 category aren't far from being ideal for a fifth wheel setup. So what you're seeing from the engines, like I talked about earlier in the video, you're going from about 8,000 pounds of pulling all the way to just about 14,000 pounds of towing capacity. That is wild. That's incredible. Now keep in mind, if you want the maximum towing for any engine, you got to go with the maximum towing package. So that's important. All this is from the Ford Media spec sheet. So if you're trying to get the right engine, you also have to get the right differential, and you need to pay attention to the Ford spec sheet, because it's not just about engine power. All these engines are making really impressive power. The 2021 engines are beefed up. So big change, lots of power. That power boost actually having 570 pound-feet of torque, you'd think that it is the most equipped to pull. But you got to check your numbers, because it does not pull the most amount of weight. And because the electric engine and battery weighs more, you see it right here, 3.5 liter power boost hybrid at the bottom of the page. What's its payload? Well, it's playing around 1,800 pounds to 2,000 pounds, depending if you're getting it in 2x4 or 4x4, and also regular cab to Super Crew. Obviously, 4x4 adds weight, and so does going from a regular cab all the way to a Super Crew. So you really got to be careful. You really have to watch your spec sheet. So look at the Ford Media spec sheet 2021 F-150. You can download that to help you know which is the right engine for your use. And it's not straightforward. The 3.5 liter power boost hybrid making 570 pound-feet of torque does not have the highest amount of towing or the highest payload. Why does it not have the highest payload even though it's got the most power? Well, because the battery weighs more and the electric engine adds weight as well, and payload comes down to gross vehicle weight rating. It's the total weight that your truck can take, including its own weight and then the weight you can add to it. So keep an eye on these things, really important. I hope this video has been helpful, and if it has been helpful, please like and also subscribe to get more videos all about everything car review. So stay tuned, and more cars and more power to all of you.